Greetings, everyone, and welcome. October the 13th, 2025, and really some breaking news here. Donald Trump says Witkoff was incompetent in trying to meet with Putin. But here's what really matters today. The story is not just about missteps by the Trump administration, but it's about deep disappointment that I'm seeing now inside Ukraine and really a slap in the face to Russia. And I want to dig into this with Johnny Pearce because he just released a video on the same topic. JP, welcome, and welcome to everybody on ATP Geopolitics as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, this, because my video was initially that I was enraged, frustrated, but not surprised, because I talked about how I think Trump is ignorant on all matters concerning foreign policy, but particularly Ukraine and Russia, but also Steve Witkoff, and choosing him, someone who had no interest or had expressed any knowledge about the situation, sending him to be the point man to discuss the future, the existential future of Ukraine, I thought was insane.
Naive.
And so that's naive. And that speech today that I'm sure you're going to play.
We're going to play it right now. I actually watched your video, and as soon as it ended, I called Johnny and I said, great video. I 100% agree, but I think there's one more Russian-Ukrainian perspective we can add to it. So thank you guys for being here on both channels. Thank you for subscribing, liking, commenting. We appreciate each and every one of you and look forward to your comments on this video. Now, let's get right to the clip we're talking about, JP.
But I set up a meeting for him to meet with President Putin, thinking it would be a 15 or a 20-minute meeting. Steve had no idea about Russia, had no idea about Putin too much, didn't know too much about politics, wasn't that interested.
Let's pause it right there. First of all, a war that's been raging for a decade, if we go back to 2014, and this is who you're sending to negotiate with Putin, doesn't know anything about the situation or politics. That's mistake number one.
It's that he's just admitting this. I mean, this should be embarrassing. Like,
it's embarrassing.
I'm sending someone to solve what's otherwise an intractable problem, and I'm sending someone that I'm telling you right now has no interest and no knowledge of the situation, and no interest and knowledge in politics. Like,
hello, let's keep going.
He's really good at real estate, but he had that quality that I was looking for, and I didn't see it around in too many ways. And I set up the meeting with Putin, and I called. I said, is Steve finished yet?
Now, let's pause right there, because now we're going to get into the comedy routine, which is completely disrespectful to the Ukrainians. 100% disrespectful. And on a day when some good things are happening with release of hostages in the Middle East, we turn this into a comedy routine for the next 30 seconds or so. But I will suggest this. We have a Secretary of State named Marco Rubio who understands communism, has the Cuban knowledge background, so he doesn't have the right vibe about our own Secretary of State to go and communicate. We send Witkoff. Here you go. This is the comedy routine that is really disrespectful.
It was about a half an hour into the meeting. No, sir, he's not. He's still inside. This is in Moscow. I said, well, how's he doing? I don't know, sir. He's still inside. I called up an hour later. Let me speak to Steve. Sir, he's still with Putin. He's with President Putin. I said, wow, it's a long meeting, 1 hour. I called up an hour later. He was still with Putin. 3 hours later, he was still with Putin. 4 hours later, he started to get the word that he was going to be coming out soon.
And right there in the Knesset, they're just laughing, and hey, this is all a comedy show.
And in 5 hours, he came out. I said, what the hell were you talking about for 5 hours? And he says, just a lot of interesting things.
Let's pause it right there. You made mention of our joint live stream that Jonathan Fink hosted. There's plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, so someone almost clapped there as well, as if like, this is really a comedy routine, but the reality is, and I hadn't really, and this is where you're great on this, Greg, because you phoned me up and you're like, there's a Russian and Ukrainian element to this, which needs to be discussed. And I was saying, yeah, this is disrespectful. And I spoke a little bit, I think, about this is a really serious matter. But actually, this will be a slap in the face to the Ukrainians who have, so many people have died, so many families have been ripped apart. And he's like, oh, hi, it's 4 hours, 5 hours. Of course it's 5 hours. We had a 12.5 hour live stream the other night. We didn't even scratch the surface. You're trying to solve one of the most difficult geopolitical puzzles, and even the word puzzle is not doing justice to the fact that it's a war, right? And there's death and destruction. You expect that to be a 15 to 20 minute conversation? What are you thinking? I mean, it's just such naivety.
I'm working on pulling some information together right now. You cannot compare negotiations with Hamas to negotiations with Vladimir Putin. You're talking about a terrorist organization propped up by foreign states versus a sovereign nation with the history, the geopolitical ties, the economy of Russia. It is not apples to apples. So that's up for a different topic later. But we're just talking about interesting things for 5 hours. No, your head was being filled full of Russian propaganda for 5 hours.
That's 5 hours of a former KGB agent surrounded by other KGB or FSB agents. And I don't know if this is the exact meeting he's talking about, because Witkoff's had a few, but one of them was he went in on his own, no interpreter. They provided a Russian FSB agent interpreter, and he was there just being chewed up, I think, by this entourage.
Only one that was competent to be able to go in. If we're not sending the Secretary of State, then it was Keith Kellogg. He was rejected immediately, moment one, because they knew he spoke Russian. They knew he had at least a grasp of the situation geopolitically. I mean, you made reference to it on your video. Witkoff doesn't even know the regions of Ukraine. Additionally, and I want to get to the Ukrainian viewpoint in a second, my Ukrainian friends are replying, how can somebody who doesn't know anything, doesn't really care, and ill-equipped go into a meeting with Vladimir Putin without a personal reporter and a stenographer to even write down what was said? So let's finish this out and then we'll hit it.
We're talking about a lot of interesting things, including what he went in there for, but you can't talk about it for 5. You can talk about it for a certain period of time and you know what you're getting. But that's a talent. That's a talent where you can do that. Most people I'd send in, number one, they wouldn't be accepted. Number two, if they were, the meeting would last 5 minutes. And that's what happens with Steve. Everybody loves him. They love him on this side. They love him on the other side. And he really is. He's a great negotiator because he's a great guy. So thank you very much, Steve.
You have it. The qualifications for being a great negotiator is being a great guy.
It's so, honestly, the more I listen to this, the more it enrages me. It is just incredible. And do you know what else this tells us as well, Greg? Is that Trump was never interested in this being a just outcome. There's no moral dimension to this, right? So for me, I'll be like, if I was president of the United States, I'd be like, right, Ukraine have been attacked. They've been wronged by Russia. We need to send someone in there who's going to fight on behalf of Ukraine, right? Because we absolutely cannot have the aggressor winning here, etc., etc. Everything that we already know, right?
Well, we've covered.
The choice to send someone like that in tells you that's not at all what he's interested in. He's just, sending a great guy.
Complete incompetence, check. Comedy routine, check. I even use this viewpoint here of this picture. Putin shaking the hands with Witkoff, and Ushakov is pulling the chair back. Welcome to the party, sir. Now, the Ukrainian viewpoint we've discussed. They feel disappointed that this is how the United States chose to begin the negotiations. Now, we've moved to a new level now with different rhetoric, but this was definitely disrespectful to the Ukrainians. And then I called you and I said the Russian viewpoint is, for them, it's a slap in the face to them. They won't say it and they'll love it, but if this is what you send to negotiate with us, is how the Kremlin will think, then we know exactly where your position is. So that's what I wanted to add, is the Russians, they will use this for their advantage, and they're already doing it. A couple of last things I'll show you, Johnny. Get your thought on. This is Dmitry Medvedev, who many people say, listen, you can't listen to Medvedev. Okay, you're mistaken, because the president of the United States does direct tweeting back and forth with Dmitry Medvedev over the sub game. This man was the former president of Russia, plays the game with Putin, flipping positions. He is the chairman of the Security Council. He just represented Russia in North Korea. Yes, you pay attention, no matter what he tweets out in a drunken state. He said, Trump said that if President of Russia does not resolve the Ukrainian conflict, it will end badly for him, threatening for the 101st time, basically. If the business peacemaker is talking about tomahawks, then the phrase is incorrect. The delivery of these missiles could end badly for everyone, and first of all, for Trump himself. We now have a direct threat against Donald Trump from Medvedev. The last time that even the N-word nuclear was used, Trump immediately responded, I'm sending 2 subs over there. Okay. Medvedev goes on, it has been said 100 times in a way even understandable to the star-spangled uncle that it is impossible to distinguish nuclear tomahawks from conventional ones in flight. Their launch will not be carried out by Banderite Kyiv, but by the USA. Read Trump, how to respond to Russia. Exactly. So this came out today.
It's really interesting because you talk about it being a slap in the face for the Russians, as in that to me speaks of it. This is an insult. They'll feel insulted that they're going to send someone so ill-equipped to deal. But then, of course, at the one time it's a slap in the face. But then, as you also realize, this is music to their ears. They are sending Steve Witkoff here. I mean, that's an insult, but that's a gift. We have just been given a gift by the United States, and he's not even, as he's saying, to not send in a stenographer, like has no notes and
nothing.
And we also know that he misinterpreted one of the claims within a meeting that he had, and that had to be corrected. So, and he's going to misinterpret that because he's got no one in there to at least helping him understand things, make sure that he's sure of things. He's got no one taking notes. So, like, what the hell happened in that meeting? It's just honestly, everything speaks of rank amateur attitudes.
That's it. And this is what we're trying to share. I wanted to share the Medvedev because Trump's in Egypt meeting right now. Be looking for a response to this. It is important. Now, another issue, last 2 things that all, for me, go right back to this comedy routine discussing Witkoff, and you have disrespect on Ukraine, slap in the face to Russia. Russia will take advantage of it. They already are, JP. I don't know if you saw this or not, but this is Tatiana Moskalikova. So she is the Human Rights Commissioner for Russia. She has put out her report today that there is a fairly large number of Russians being held against their will in Ukraine. The Kyiv regime subjects them to criminal prosecution for contrived reasons, essentially for a pro-Russian stance, for being Russian. The Kyiv regime has not yet announced a specific date for the return to the Russian Federation of 13 Kursk residents that are in Sumy under lock and key. And the expulsion of Russians from Latvia for not knowing the language is an unprecedented, massive violation of human rights. This is today. Russia goes straight on the attack about human rights. This is how they play the game. They're masters of it.
And that's the point. It's like you send a lamb to the slaughter in sending Steve Witkoff to these people who, say what you like about Putin. He knows what he's doing. Sometimes he overreaches. Sometimes I think he makes bad decisions that actually don't work so well in his favor. But that's probably coming from the idea that he thinks Russia is untouchable and great, and et cetera, et cetera. But in terms of working on manipulating people, that's what Russia do. That's what Russia does. That's what they do in the information spaces online, in the Twitter realm and the Facebook realm. They are manipulating people's thoughts, and this is what they do in meetings as well.
7. Well, let's close with this. This is going to be potentially, JP, one of the most critical weeks of the war yet. Why? All this rhetoric coming to a head. We have Gaza story for the moment will ease off. There can be more focus on Ukraine, hopefully. But we have the threats backwards from Medvedev now, and FT and now Axios are both reporting that Zelensky to DC on the 17th to personally meet with Trump. I never report anything by just FT, but now Axios has done it, and I can confirm 100% that Rustam Umarov and the Defense Council is already on an airplane today heading to Washington, D.C. So this could be a critical week for going forward for Ukraine.
Well, there's a rumor from one of the Timoshenko, who was it that said the other day that they had a feeling that the war is going to end soon. And you're thinking, well, that's interesting. I mean,
don't listen to her.
Don't know how much. Yeah. But I wonder how much will be achieved by this, because then you've also got Tomahawk discussions to throw into that, which is allowing Ukraine to hit harder and further, and so that dynamics is interesting when they're also trying to solve the war and bring it to a close. So there are these tensions going on.
As Zelensky has said,
to see how it plays.
As Zelensky has said, strength through power. It is Donald Trump. He is the one that 3 to 4 weeks ago truthed out that Ukraine can win the war. Ukraine can even take territory in Russia. He is the one that is not saying no to tomahawks. He wants to know information. Zelensky today coming out on video and saying, we promise we will only hit military targets with tomahawks. And now he's heading to DC. We've got Medvedev going back with crazy talk directed directly at Donald Trump. Of course, he will respond, all on top of, we really sent incompetence to negotiate. We're at a whole new phase of this war. So the week's going to be interesting. I wanted to get you in here. I wanted to talk about your video. So you nailed it, man.
The only thing to close out, as far as I'm concerned, from a broader political point of view, this tells us an awful lot about the Trump administration. And I would say that Marco Rubio, and I think he's had to sell his soul down the river, Marco Rubio, and he's probably dead inside now, and he's been spineless and weak. But he is the only person in that entire cabinet, extended cabinet, people around that I think is anything approaching a sensible politician or a sensible person in whatever role. Everyone else, I think, is not serious at their job, is not qualified at their job. And I think this is an example. This is a really obvious example of how that is the case. Like, Steve Witkoff was wholly underprepared, wholly inept, and unable to do that job. And Trump has now just said, in a joking way that's supposed to say how wonderful he is, has really admitted how terrible he is and how ill-equipped he was to be able to deal with Vladimir Putin.
And Russia will take very much advantage of that. We will see. I, on the opposite side of you, completely agree with you 100%, dear sir, that Marco Rubio is the only one that has any grounding. He's got hollow eyes now when you look into his eyes. But you can even look at it this way, and we'll close out. You've got to get to a football game. Listen, you've never seen Marco Rubio tweet out a meme with a sombrero. You've seen Trump, you've seen Vance, you've seen everybody. You've never seen Marco Rubio do anything in that game area. So that confirms what you're talking about. Exactly. So, all right, my man, you have a great day. Guys, we hope this helps you. If you're a subscriber on my channel, please go subscribe to ATP Geopolitics, and likewise. Yeah, you guys see us together all the time. So, partners in crime. Have a great day, JP.
Take care, dude.
All right. Bye-bye.